back to my corner of the internet. I am Shannon, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite books of 2021. Now, I can't say these are the best books. I haven't read them all, but from the ones I've read, these are my faves of this year. I think they were all published this year. If not, they're all new-ish releases, but I think most of them are published this year. But anyway, in the past 12 months, these are my favorite books that I have read. These are in no particular order, although the final three are going to be my top three of the year. They were very clearly my top three as I was gathering these books. There was no question of the top three, but all the rest I loved very much as well. So the first one is Little Cruelties by Liz Nugent. I've loved everything I've read from Liz, and this book I think was my favorite that she's written. That's kind of going to be a theme here for the authors that I love. This year, a lot of their books were my favorite books that they've written so far. Anyway, I loved this one. This book is about three brothers who have just constantly competed for their mother's attention. They've got that real sort of drive to be better than each other. And this book is just right from the get-go a wild ride. And I loved every minute of it. So you get a look at these three brothers when they were young children, and then you also get a look at them as adults and just seeing the way that their lives have unfolded throughout the years, about the secrets. You know I love a good family dysfunction book, and this is definitely that. So if you love something that's fast-paced, that will keep you guessing until the end, and has a bit of that family dysfunction, I think you'd love this. It was a great read. Next up, this was a recent read for me, and this is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. This book is entirely character-driven, which is something I enjoy. I love good character-driven novels, and this was one that again kept me turning the pages, and but nothing really happens. It's one of those sort of character-driven novels. There's no fast-paced plot here. Nothing happens. It's just a group of four people and a glimpse into their lives. They're four friends. We get to see the different relationships they have with each other. And I thought it was great. I haven't yet read Normal People by Sally Rooney, but it's definitely going to go on my list because I saw the show and liked it. And I feel like it's probably similar vibes to this. And yeah, it's basically the story of two best friends and how things are going for them right now. Which I know doesn't sound very exciting, but I enjoyed it all the same. This is the book, next up, that took me the longest to read this year. I struggled to get through the first little bit of it, and that's not a reflection of the story. It's a reflection of how small the print is. I turned 40 this year, and I cannot read small print the way I used to be able to. So again, not a reflection of the story. The story was fantastic. That's why it's in this video. But we're talking about Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane. And his story just really kicks you in the feelings. It says on the back there, how much can a family forgive? So we got the family dysfunction theme again, and I just thought this was so good. It's about two families and the way that their lives intersect, and the way that they're all changed forever after a very violent, tragic incident happens. And it just goes from there and follows the two children from each of the families. So when this violent incident takes place, they're children, and then we sort of follow them throughout their life. And I thought this was a beautifully written story, that there were so many parts that I'd reread because I just thought it was so beautiful. And I think Mary Beth is a fantastic author, and I can't wait to read more from her. Next up, next we have the fourth and final installment of the Practical Magic series by Alice Hoffman. First of all, I love Alice Hoffman so much. She is an instant buy author for me, and this is the final book in this series, and I loved it so much. So this one is the direct sequel to Practical Magic. There's 2 other books, but they are both prequels. So, I mean, definitely read Practical Magic first. If you want to, you can read them in chronological order, which would go 3rd book, 2nd book, 1st book, 4th book, if you'd like. I think if I was coming at the series fresh, I might do that. Otherwise, you can read them in the order they were published. You can read them however you like. But this is the story that sort of leads us to the end of the Owens sisters' story. If you love magical realism, if you love reading about witches, if you love reading about sisters and family and strong women, this series is just so good in my opinion. And yeah, this one brings us to the end of the aunts' lives from Practical Magic, and it's a story about the beautiful ways in which we will fight to save those that we love. And I just think it's such a great story, and if you love any of those things, you would love this, and I thought it was great. Next up, for me, it would not be a favorite books of the year list without mentioning the Lisa Jewell book I loved this year. Lisa is a instant buy author for me. She's one of those prolific authors that puts out, you know, at least a book a year. And this one is her most recent, and it's called The Night She Disappeared, and I loved it. If I'm remembering correctly, this is the one that she wrote during the pandemic. And I think she even mentions it in this, like for a lot of these prolific authors that put out books yearly, we're getting to all of their pandemic books. And I loved this one. This one is one of my favorites of hers. As I mentioned earlier, that's going to be a theme here, but I thought it was great. There's a bunch of different timelines happening in this, which I love. It starts off with 2 young teenage or just out of teen years. Their new parents, Tallulah and Zach. Tallulah. And they go missing. Tallulah's mom is watching their child for the night. The 2 of them go to the pub and they do not come home. So the story becomes a mystery of trying to find out where they are, what happened to them, who did it. And we get these different timelines, these different points of view, and I thought it was a great story. As with all Lisa Jewell books, it's a page turner. You can't put it down till you're done, and I thought it was great. So if you've read any Lisa Jewell and you like her, I would definitely also recommend this one. And if you haven't read any Lisa Jewell, what are you waiting for? She's a great place to start if you love thrillers and just fast-paced reads. She's great. The next one I want to talk about is from another instant buy author, and this is Kristen Hanna, The Four Winds. This is a big book. Kristen Hanna is such a fantastic author. She wrote The Nightingale, which was so good. Oh, why is that the only title I can think of right now? I've read all of her books, or a lot of her books. But The Nightingale is one that, oh, The Great Alone. That's my favorite of her books. It is so good. Anyway, this one came out this year and it's excellent. It's a very devastating read. It'll break your heart into a million pieces. It takes place in Texas during 1921. And again, it's the story of a family, but this time they're talking. So what happens is the Great War is over, but this, you know, Texas that used to be so plentiful is now becoming a drought. It's dust. It's making people sick. They're losing their harvests and they have to move on. And it's the story of a family that has to move on and just the trials and tribulations that follows them. And it's a heartbreaker, this one, but it's so good. And I love Kristen Hanna. So now we're going to get into my top 3 of the year that I just loved so much. The first one, these are in no particular order. I just loved them all, so we're just going to talk about them. This one here is The Drowning Kind by Jennifer McMahon. First of all, that cover is stunning. It's one of my favorite covers of the year. Second of all, Jennifer McMahon has quickly become one of my favorite authors. I only read 2 of her books. I know she has a couple more, which are definitely on my list. But a couple years ago, I read The Invited, which I loved. And then as soon as I saw this was out, I said, yes, let me read it. And it was so good. Again, it's the story of sisters, which is definitely something that I find myself drawn to, probably because I have a sister. And so I just love reading stories of other sisters. But it's also a couple different timelines. And so this book starts off with one of the sisters passing away. And the other sister has to go home to the home where they grew up together, that I think was their grandmother's home or an aunt's home, and sort of just get everything in order. And again, it's told from a couple of different timelines, and it's just such a good story. There's just so much happens. It's dark, it's twisted, it's a little supernatural, a little paranormal, but in kind of subtle ways, especially at first. And it's about water and this body of water that is it's talked about in both timelines, but in the current one with the sisters, it's in the backyard of their home, and there's something off with this water, and it's where the one sister drowned. So would definitely recommend. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Next up is my favorite horror book of the year, perhaps one of my favorite horror books period, and that is It Will Just Be Us by Jo Kaplan. I came across this book because a friend of mine, Kim, who is a librarian, she is so kind, and she often will send me or tag me on Facebook on a list of new releases for the month, which I love because I never know where to look to find the new releases. And she'll often tag me in that, and one month she did, and this was the book, or one of the books that I saw in it. And I was like, you know what? It's a haunted house story, which I love. Love a haunted house story. And I was like, you know what? It sounds good. And without Kim, I don't think I would have stumbled across this book. So thank you, Kim. But it's this really intense haunted house story that's, again, about a family. And just some of the scenes in this are some of the creepiest that I've ever read. Or at the very least, they're the ones that just hit me in that particular way, because of course we're all going to read horror differently, and what scares the crap out of me isn't necessarily going to scare the crap out of you. But this had some scenes that scared the crap out of me, and I love that. I can't even get into it. I have a book talk on all of these books where I go in through the spoilers, so if any of these sound interesting to you, you can search them up and watch the whole book talks. Was so good, and it scared me. The final in my top 3 this year is The Push by Ashley Audrain. This book really got under my skin. It's very dark. It deals with the death of a child and the potential cause of that death being another child. And both of them are the main character's children. So basically this book is about a woman named Blythe, and she is married to a man named Fox. The book starts off, she is sitting outside of Fox's new home with his new family, his new wife, the whole family. And she's written him a letter because she wants to tell him her side of their story, basically. And that story is that Blythe, she becomes a mother, and she does not bond with her child, this little girl. She doesn't. There's no bonding. And she starts to think that maybe it's her, and because she had a weird relationship with her mother, and her mother had a weird relationship with her mother. Just down the whole line, it's weird mother-daughter relationship. So at first she thinks maybe it's that. But then as time goes on, she starts to think, no, maybe it's the kid. And she's not wrong. Let's just say that. As time goes by, her and her husband have another child, a little boy, and she bonds with this one. So she's like, okay, it's not me. And then from there, things just go haywire. And it's the kind of book that will keep you turning those pages, as is a common theme with all of these. But I just loved it. And it's one of those books, anytime anyone says, have you read a good book lately? I immediately think of this one because I feel like it has a large appeal to many people. If you like a thriller, if you like family dysfunction, it's a great one, and I would definitely recommend. Now, before I let you go, I of course have to mention one more little book that came out this year, and that is my book, my Christmas novella called The Uncertainty of Letting Go. Would I say it's one of the best books of the year? Probably not, but it's definitely one of my favorites, and I just wanted to mention it in case you've been following along on my journey and missed the announcement video back in November, but I'll leave the link to it down below if you are interested checking it out. It's the story of a girl named Amy who goes home to her family home and family town after her mother dies to pack up her house and to get everything in order. And then about 6 months later, it's Christmas time, and one night she returns home to find her father sitting on her doorstep. Her father who she hasn't seen in nearly 20 years. And from there it becomes a story of forgiveness and grief and the ways that we are able to find our way home. So just had to put that little plug in there because why not? And thank you to everyone who has purchased the book, left a review, told me you enjoyed it. That means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much. Anyway, it is New Year's Day, nighttime, New Year's Day, and 2022 has officially rolled on through. So I hope you guys have a great 2022, and I hope you're having a great day when you watch this, and I will see you again real soon. Bye.